to the Walk Bike Committee. The Walk Bike Committee is a creation of the Select Board and Advisory Group. And I wanted to sort of let you know who the people are who are on this committee. So let's start off with some introductions and also our presenters tonight. So we have Marsha Stern here, she's our chair. We have Bonnie Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. We have Gary Fox back there from town of Rockingham, the development director. We have Conor Floyd from the Windham County Trails Association. Hey, Conor. And Trails Alliance. And we have Mike Kowalczyk from the Monadnock Regional Rail Trail Collaborative, our representative from across the river. We have Stan Talstra, who is there. He's a member of the committee, lives in Saxton's River. And we have Bonnie North, my colleague on the select board, who is also a key player at the Historical Society. And online, we may have Jonathan Weber, he's down there, and he's in Burlington. He's our a volunteer advisor from a group called Local Motion in Burlington. They advise walk, bike at projects all around the state. So the goals for tonight is for people like, oh, sorry, Peter Bergstrom. Peter Bergstrom is a member of the committee and also a Saxons River resident. Did I miss anyone else? Okay. So first goal for tonight is for people who care about hiking and biking and cycling to get to know each other and thus be able to collaborate. The second goal is to educate ourselves about walk, bike opportunities and challenges so that we can come up with some proposed solutions and projects. Okay, so let me describe what the plan is. Each presenter, we have 5 presenters, each of whom will speak for 6 minutes. And that'll be amazing if we stick to that. But we're going to ask you to hold questions until the second part of the program. And at that point, you can ask any questions. Bonnie will be moderating the second part of the questions, the question and answer session. So first, I'm going to start off with our first presenter, who is Bonnie, and she is the embodiment of cycling in this town.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy with this. Okay, I gotta talk louder, my brother's telling me. And I apologize, I'm getting over a cold. I'm not contagious, I'm not sick, but my voice is a little rough, so bear with me. Thank you, this is awesome. So I'm gonna be talking about building bike and walk culture in the town, and I just want to start off by saying this is huge. Like you are all helping to build just by being here, just by showing up. So that's great. And in my opinion, I think that that building bike culture starts with youth. And so there's been such a growth ever since we've had the bike project. We're in our 10th year, and so we've seen like this definitely a growth of biking around town. A lot of youth. There's Haley and Juan from Friends for Change here, who we worked with them a lot to a local youth group. Work with them a lot, getting them on bikes. And so really getting kids biking more and more, getting them starting early and making sure they have bikes and just, then the infrastructure, making it safe for them is key, and getting families biking. So there's, the current things that are going on is, I wanted to talk about Central School. I keep wanting to call it WCS, that's Westminster. So the Central School, I don't know if any of you have seen them riding around, but Peter Stolley, the gym teacher, takes the kids out. He has a whole bike week and then beyond that, and they ride around and teach them how to navigate the streets and safely, and you get like ones like this big and up. And so that's where it starts, getting them riding and getting them riding safely, learning how to all that. So that's going on. The pump track, which, Lakota, Conor would be talking about, that's been great. We have kids coming by, and I always ask them, do you use the pump track? Yeah, we do. And they come by to tinker on their bikes and just get some air, and we get the feedback. They're riding so much more. So the pump track and then the trails up there, it's so great. So we have youth drop in. They can drop in anytime and work on their bikes. So some possibilities of, is anyone keeping time? Someone should time, because I'm gonna just ramble on.
I think that's my job. 3 minutes.
Some things that I've heard about that I haven't seen happen in this town, but I know Peter Laurie talked about years ago, is a bicycle bus and a walking bus. And if any of you don't know what that is, it's where adults take kids, walk them to school, either walk them to school or ride them to school. So it's kind of like it's like a bus, but they're all riding their bikes or they're all walking. And I would love to see that happen in this town. And I just want to put that out there, because I think that'd be great. Just getting families involved more and everything. So let's see. We at the bike shop see the whole gamut of riders and walkers, but we're obviously dealing with riders. So everything from people who have no transportation, they need a bike for transportation, all the way up to the people with the blingy bikes and high-end bikes, and everything in between. And we all share the same infrastructure, and we need to make sure that it's safe and accessible. And so that's huge. And we just have to think about everybody. So one thing I want to touch on briefly is the possibility, and this kind of, ties in with everything else that's going to be talked about tonight, is just to put a bug in everyone's ear about the possibility of having access, right-of-way access to the rail. We have this great, fantastic riverfront, and we can't use most of it. The Riverfront Trail on the south part is great, which will be talked about, but we can, we have this whole northern end, which is taken up by the railroad. So there's a conversation for that, and maybe not tonight, but I just want people to think about the possibility of that. I think I probably used up my time already, but I just wanted to say that I'm really excited over the course of time that we've had the bike shop. We've seen all these little groups popping up, the Saxon River Valley Trails, and then the Monadnock Trail, and then Lakota. And they're all starting to merge now, and it's so exciting. It's just, and this, oh my gosh, this is so great that we all know. And I think I'm done. Sorry.
Okay, so our next presenter is Gary Fox.
Yeah, I don't.
No, Bonnie's there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Bonnie's next.
I've got my.
Yeah, I'm later.
Okay, Bonnie and Peter.
Yep.
You guys are next.
Hi, I'm Bonnie North. I handle all the finances for the Bellows Falls Historical Society, and I've been doing that now for about 6 years, I guess. I hope everybody here knows of and has visited the Riverfront Park, is that right? Raise your hand. All right, that's good. I still run into people that don't even know it's there, and that is heartbreaking. So it's really, it's absolutely splendid little park, and we're so proud of it. One thing I doubt many people know is how it came to be. It started as a dream conjured up by Stuart Reed, who was the treasurer and benefactor of the society for a long, long time. And he persisted in getting a multitude of grants, building what they call a funding stack. Several $100,000 went into brownfield cleanup and excavation and so forth down there. I don't know if many people ever went down that way before the park, but I used to go with my dog sometimes, and it was just a big mess of brambles. And now it's this beautiful park. One thing that needs to be said tonight is that from the onset, as this dream was built, it was planned to be the gateway to a larger trail system. It's written right in the EPA grants and all the old documents that came to me when I took over things for the Historical Society. So this was always in the plan for that park. Excuse me, that's why we got the easement. So our land goes up to the sewage plant, and then beyond that, we have an easement to the mouth of the Saxons River. The Bellows Falls Historical Society owns that easement. And that was always intended to connect with the Saxons River Valley Trails Initiative. And so this is all part of a great big scheme that's been floating around in the ethers for well over a decade. And the Historical Society is very proud and happy to see it coming closer and closer to fruition. That easement, if you've ever walked it, you couldn't really ride a bike on it because around the sewer system, it's very, very steep like that. So we're hoping funding can be gotten to do some excavating and level it off and gravel it. And there's even some wishful thinking that we could make the whole thing handicapped access in the end. So anyway, that's why I'm here tonight, just to give everybody a little background and encourage you to enjoy the park.
This is too close.
Mark it on the floor. I'm Peter Bergstrom. I am on the Walk Bike Committee. I'm also on the town's Conservation Commission, and I'm the Energy Coordinator and Chair of the Energy Committee. So my wife starts asking me, you just keep adding stuff? Yeah. But I've always been a big fan of hiking and biking trails. And is it possible to hide the participants so
Yeah.
no, I think the little down arrow there, maybe.
High profile, no, it's the arrow on the right at the top. On the left.
Yeah, then we got them. Yeah, just so close, yeah. There we go. Okay.
I will be able to see them now, so I'm explaining
They're across the top,
that. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
yeah. And I'm here
Okay.
dancing around. So I'm going to give you a whirlwind tour of trails that I know about in Rockingham. Won't be able to go into detail. There is a map of all of them over here, so I'd be happy to talk to you about them afterwards, or I can email you information. So we do have some walking and biking trails. Obviously, they're not connected to each other, and they could be much better. So next slide. Sometimes down arrow works, right arrow. Yes, we forgot to.
Oh, I think it's because you're in Zoom and not PowerPoint. Is that right? Sorry.
Okay. This is just a list of the 11 trails I'm going to talk about. Too much detail. Next slide.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and this is these are some detail maps. They're mostly in the south part of town. So obviously we need more trails around the town. And the Bald Hill Trail is in Westminster. Next slide. So I'm going to talk first about more developed and maintained trails, and these are not all equally developed, but somebody has worked on them. So the first one is you could advance it, the Bellows Falls Riverfront Trail, which Bonnie just talked about. This is the sort of the middle of that trail. The north part of that trail has been covered with Sherpack. That's what you see here. And it parallels Mill Street most of the way. There's a kayak ramp down to the river. The labyrinth is on the hill up in the back. So if you haven't walked it, I definitely recommend it. And the Minard's Pond Trail, which I think Conor is going to talk about, it's a loop trail around the pond, about 2.5 miles. So it's a nice distance for walking. Next one. The Oak Hill mountain bike trails, which Conor's also going to talk about, so I won't go into them. The Vermont Academy trails are on the northwest side of campus, and they're a mixture of old logging roads and narrow single track trails used for mountain biking. So the narrow ones are not great for hiking, but the old logging roads, such as shown here, are good for hiking. And there are large maps at kiosks around the campus, and what I'd recommend is if you want to hike these trails, take a picture with your phone of the map on the kiosk, and then you can go back to it. I've met people in the woods there who say, "How do I get out of here? I'm totally lost." Because all the trails loop back on each other and sort of go over the hill. And, so that's a trick that I picked up. The distant hill trails have that. They say, take a picture of the map, and then you'll have it with you. And this is not in Vermont, but it has a great view of Vermont. This is the Table Rock Trail in North Walpole. It starts at the end of Mountain View Road, which is here.
It's just when you put your hand in front of the
I won't go over there. It starts at the end of Mountain View Road in North Walpole, and then it's an old carriage road that goes fairly steeply up the hill. And the main thing you need to know is that there's a right fork when you're getting near the summit. If you go straight, you'll get to the ridge, which has the transmission towers. It doesn't have a view. But if you hang a right, you'll get to Table Rock, which has a great view of Bellows Falls. So the next slide shows what that view looked like in 1855 and in 2002. It's really an amazing view. And I highly recommend going up there if you haven't been up there. Next slide. There are Bald Hill and high school trails in Westminster. Some of them are on high school land. The parcel in green belongs to the Windham Hill Pinnacle Association, and they call it the Bald Hill Reserve. And those are also lovely trails that I recommend checking out. That's okay. Herrick's Cove is a natural area in the northwest corner of town, if you haven't been there, and it's a major birding area. So I highly recommend it for birds. There are trails on the west side of the peninsula. I believe that they built this up with fill when they flooded They raised the dam in Bellows Falls for hydroelectric power. It flooded a lot of the marshes on the Connecticut River, but I think they built up this peninsula, so it would be better as a park. You don't have to worry about your car getting stuck in the marsh. So it's a nice area to visit. 236 species of birds, which that's a lot. The Riverfront Park, we're up to about 130 or something. Yeah, it takes a lot of work to get to 236 species. All right, next slide. There are some less developed trails you might want to check out. I think I've been on all of these, not so much the village forest. So next slide, the Durand State Forest was not really created or maintained for hiking. It was in the bequest, it was mainly managed for hunting, fishing, and trapping. So the roads are just kind of there. It does have some marshes. It has the headwaters of Wright Brook, which flows north into the Williams River. But this is managed by Tim Morton, who's a state forester, and he said they really, it's okay to hike there, but it's not something they encourage necessarily. Next slide. This is a hike right near my house. I live near the Warner Center in Saxons River. Some of my neighbors are here. If you like hiking to views, there's an old ski area that still belongs to Vermont Academy. They don't use it. It's on Hartley Hill Road. And you can walk up this ski slope to a point about the second overlook there with a nice view. So the next slide shows the views. There are two views. The lower picture is the first one you get to that looks out across the trailer park on Westminster West Road. And the higher view, the one in the upper left, looks out over the Warner Center, and you can see part of Saxons River. So it's kind of a neat hike. It's quite steep, but Vermont Academy still mows it, so you don't have to bring a machete to get through it. And this is the southern portion of the Bellows Falls Riverfront Trail. It's not on Historical Society land. It's on the easements that the Historical Society holds. And you can see some of the challenges there. The trail is sloped. It's doesn't have a crushed stone surface. So Gary will be talking about a grant that we hope will get us towards building a crushed stone level trail along here, so it'll be much more accessible. And then finally, I really haven't explored this, but the village owns a forest to protect its water supply, and it's almost 1,000 acres, I think. It's north and a little bit west of Minard's Pond, and there is a logging road in there. I haven't explored it, but I think it's a loop of almost 4 miles. And there's a potential to connect to Paradise Hill Road and Hall Bridge Road down in the lower left there. And you reach it from Darby Hill Road. I don't know how many of you have been up there, but that's how you get to the village forest. It's the only underpass under I-91 between Route 121 and 103. So it's a neat area. And I'm not taking questions now, but these are just some ways you can help. You can help maintain local trails. You can help with knotweed control. I'm always looking for volunteers for that. And some of the trails need to be explored, especially the village forest. Somebody with a GPS that records tracks could go out and do some exploring. Thank you.
Gary Fox? How's it going? Bonnie
north was showing us the Bellows Falls Historic Riverfront Park. And this is the first extension coming off at the Saxons River Valley Trail Initiative. So if you want to go to so these are some of the challenges on the trail. Peter was showing some of the smoother areas around the wastewater treatment plant. As you get further, it gets pretty tough. There's also all of Bellows Falls stormwater drains down into 2 pipes that go under the railroad, and they come out in different sections that this trail goes across. And there's railroad crossing. So there's a whole bunch of challenges to having a good trail here. And Srivki, the town had done a couple of applications to try and get some trails built with trail builders, and it's a really challenging site. And so what we've done at this point is go to VTRANS, where they have engineers that work on lots of challenging terrain around Vermont, with a scoping study, which will, for shared use paths. So if you want to go to the next slide. The Transportation Alternatives Grant, one of the things that we'll do for bicycles and pedestrians is what they call the shared use paths. And these are just some graphics on their website of what shared use paths look like. And the goal, this path starts right in the center of the Bellows Falls Village. 3,000 people, walking village. A lot of people like to not have to get in your cars. Some things why it's great to have a health center right here in the village. Everyone can walk there. So for trail use and recreation, to be able to walk here, really important that our trails right in the village can work for anyone. So whether you're a family with a stroller or you're on a wheelchair, can you get out here and connect from the village of Bellows Falls out to the past the Liberty Mill to the Saxons River estuary. And so next slide. So the first part of the trail, there is a road you could drive through up to the wastewater treatment plant. It does work for everything. And this great graphic on the Historical Society's website that, a drawing, it shows all of the features where there's kayak launch. Anyway, we can move on to the next slide. We only have 4 minutes. So the thing about shared use paths, right? Accessibility, you want them to, it's separate from car traffic. Pedestrians has to meet guidelines for with walkway, all of the standards that I think they call it ASHTO or something, that are rules for roadways. And so we can move along through a lot of these. Mobility devices, vision disabilities, it has to work for all of that sort of thing. And next slide. And so just some of the design out, fencing, landscaping, roadway crossings, safe, attractive path between 2 communities. This was an example in an area, one of them was 3,000 people, about the size of Bellows Falls. And so bicyclists, pedestrians, skaters, wheelchairs, joggers, yeah, we have bicyclists up there. So single shared use path, both directions, bicycles and pedestrians. Next slide. So its role is to be a transportation and recreation corridor for residents and visitors. And as the Historical Society with their, didn't really get into the non-trail stuff, but there's destination area with the Adams gristmill, 1830s gristmill that's still in close to working shape. And so having that as a destination and having a trail that works for everyone, really important. And so can go to the next slide.
Excuse me, here, I just got a message from somebody on Zoom, they can't see the slides. So I think I have to share the screen.
Okay, so I guess you were right, you have to stop share and then reshare.
Okay, so I
Sorry.
need to get out of.
No, that's good, thank you.
I don't know how to get out of this now.
Yes. Oh, yeah, no, that was my fault messing it up there. So I think this, no, we have to go to share. Let's see. Yeah, and then we have to find this slide again. I think that would do it. Can they see now?
I don't.
No, that's not in Zoom.
You should have that one at the bottom.
Okay, so, but that's gonna share this, not,
Yeah, share the power back and share the. Yours isn't on, yeah, everyone else is on.
Okay, so how about,
To the basics there.
so I'll try and explain things, sir. Technologically challenged, I didn't get the PowerPoint so that it can show on Zoom, so my fault there. So the benefits for the trails, most of what I'm talking about is not on the slides, like the Riverfront area, Gristmill destination. Basically, it's just a lot of little words there. What are the benefits of what are the benefits of a shared use path? So I'll read those out really fast with a minute and a half left. So dedicated facility for users of all ages and abilities, provides a shortcut between neighborhoods, provides access to areas otherwise only limited access roadways, supports tourism through convenient access to natural areas, enjoyable recreational opportunity itself, provides non-motorized transportation access to natural and recreational areas, especially helpful for low-income communities for access to recreation without driving a ways out of town. Paths have a small footprint and can display a distinctly rural character. Next slide. And so there's not really any pictures here for the folks on Zoom that we're looking at.
Looks like 9 of 9, that's.
Oh, okay, so that's all. So the way this grant works, we work with Windham Regional Commission as project managers and identify consultants that are good with this kind of work. And as you can see from those pictures of the beginning, some of the rough roadways up through Liberty Mill, it is challenging terrain, and why we work with consultants that are experienced in this type of engineering, and it's expensive in these grants. So the transportation alternatives grants provide like $50,000 for just the engineering work to look at design issues, and then they do have after scoping, you're eligible to apply to fund building of it, and they contribute up to $300,000 towards the building of the trails. So that's our goal to get there, and why we're going with this shared use pathway method. And that's the scoop. And the sidewalk thing another time.
Okay. We want to talk about sidewalks in Saxon's River and Bellows Falls at some point in a future gathering. And that's a really important topic because a lot of folks enjoy walking around Bellows Falls and Saxon's River. But now we're going to hear about the trails up around Minard's Pond from Conor.
Hey there, my name is Conor Floyd. I'm one of the board members on the Windham County Trails Alliance. And although we're called the Windham County Trails Alliance, we really only work in Bellows Falls. We just kind of claim the entire county with our name. And so we're a really small, all volunteer organization. We're a subchapter of the Vermont Mountain Bike Association. So they're kind of our umbrella organization that provides a lot of that more administrative support. But we're the on-the-ground folks that are working here in Bellows Falls to develop trails. There's about 5 of us on the board right now. We run some group rides over the summer. We both do beginner group rides at the high school trails for folks that are just getting into mountain biking. And then we also do intermediate or advanced rides at the Oak Hill trails. Most of the trail building work that we've done to this point is at the Oak Hill trails. And so those are the trails that are behind the rec center as you're going up the ski hill. I believe that there was or one hiking trail that the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps built years ago, and so we've kind of added on to that. We started down at the bottom, and right now you can go all the way from the rec center up to Griswold Drive. There's a little loop there. There's a scenic overlook trail, as well as some more mountain bike focused trails. All of those trails up there, they're available and accessible to hikers and bikers. Some trails are really more suited towards biking, and that's really more just because the folks, we're bikers, we like to bike, and so sometimes we get excited about building those kinds of trails, but really the entire system is a mixed-use system. The kind of what we're looking at for next year, or in the next couple of years, is connecting the Oak Hill trails with the Miners Pond Loop. And really, up until this date, Wakota hasn't actually done any work on the Miners Pond trails. I'm not sure who created those, or if anyone maintains them, or if they're just kind of community built there. But that's an informal loop that goes around Miners Pond. Really beautiful little trail system up there. And our hope is to build like a 2-ish mile connector trail that will take you from the top of the Oak Hill system out back through a couple of private landowners' property, and then drop down that hill into the Miners Pond Loop. So right now what we're doing is we're working with the town of Bellows Falls, along with those 2 private landowners, to get some agreements with the hope of next year beginning the process of flagging out a trail, doing some corridor clearing, and eventually actually getting a tread built. It's a lot of work building trails, as I'm sure everyone else knows, and when you're all volunteer doing it by hand, 2 miles will take us some time. And so we also always, we welcome volunteers. We typically have kind of a kickoff in the spring to do some trail work. We try to do about once a month some kind of half-day trail work day on a Saturday or a Sunday, in addition to those group rides. All of that's posted on, we try to post it on our Facebook group. You can also, if you Google the Windham County Trails Alliance, you'll find our website, and you can sign up to be on our mailing list. We're all right with social media and communicating. Sometimes we could definitely be better there. But we welcome folks, whether you're a longtime mountain biker, not a mountain biker at all, and you're a hiker, but you like using the trails and you want to help out. Really, it's yeah, we've kind of adopted those trails and are trying to build them out. So right now, the Oak Hill trails, I think some of these other initiatives are for connecting different pieces of the town or other towns together, whereas we're kind of more focused on how do we take this small area of land and add a bunch of fun trails into it. So more like density versus connectivity there is our approach right now. Although that Miners Pond connection will give us a little bit more scope in terms of how far you could hike or go just being on those trails. And I think I will leave it at that, but once we get to the question phase, I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Conor. Now, for the connectivity piece, perhaps most exciting possibility is the Vilas Bridge, after many, many, many years and much frustration, has finally been budgeted by the state of New Hampshire for reconstruction repair. 2028, maybe? Is that the date, Scott? Maybe was that? So once we get across the river, the connections are amazing, all the way down to Massachusetts and all throughout parts of New Hampshire. And Mike will describe that now.
Just not. So all you see is the.
No, there's
Where's the IT guy?
What are you having trouble with?
So I'm gonna go into presentation mode.
Oh, to be able to see notes.
To be in presentation mode and present it, because I have animation built in.
Oh, okay.
You can't help me.
No.
I'm not sure.
This will build on it.
All right, I guess we'll do it like this. Okay, so you don't have to advance slide. Okay, so it's not exactly what I wanted to do, but it was good enough. Okay, so I'm Mike Kowalczyk. I'm from the Monadnock Region Rail Trail Collaborative. I'm on the other side of the river. And after I think Bonnie just spoke, I'm also from the other side of the tracks. So I'm going to briefly go over what we're doing on our side of the river, and I'll kind of focus a little bit on how we make the connection here. Okay, so advance. I can't use this. You'll have to just hit the, right there. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're a group made up of representatives from around our region. We have people from different towns. We have a person from Cheshire County, from our Monadnock Conservancy, Regional Planning Commission, various folks that sit on our board. And our goal is to rehabilitate and maintain, there's 4 major trails in our region, and we want to get those to a quality where the 6-year-old can ride a bike on it, and we want to connect to all our neighbors, and you're one of them. So Bellows Falls, Winchton, and Brattleboro. Next. This is the board. So like I said, Cheshire County, Keene, Southwest Regional Planning Commission, and then a few towns are also on the board. We are a 501c3 through the Bike Walk Alliance in New Hampshire, and we're registered with the state of New Hampshire. Next. So these are all the trails that I'm talking about. Again, it would have been better if I could have ran animation, but I couldn't. So the Cheshire Trail, let's see if I can get this to work. Yeah, here we go. The Cheshire Trail runs pretty much from Winchton all the way up to Bellows Falls. That's 43 miles. The Ashwelot Trail starts in Keene and goes down into South Hinsdale. That's 21 3/4. The Fort Hill runs along the Connecticut River up to Brattleboro. That's 8 1/2. And then we're also just starting to work on this trail here, the Monadnock, which is from the state line near Winchton up to Peterborough, and then from Peterborough to Hillsborough. It was called the Peterborough-Hillsborough Rail Line. That's another section. And then these are the connections. So, originally it was Saxon River. I guess it's now the Riverfront Trail that we'd be connecting to here. But in Brattleboro, it's the West River. In Winchton, it's the North Central Pathway, and also the Ware River in Winchton, which, by the way, is 26 miles and connects to Mass Central, which goes to Boston. So people from Boston can get here on their bike, right? Which I think would be great. Right? Also provide a bunch of amenities, like this, signage, hydration stations, that kind of thing. Okay, next, please. Okay, so this is kind of some of our current status. So Keene recently did a rehab of about 2 miles of its trail this past year. They also have a plan. If you're familiar with the Keene area at all, when you're going to Marlborough, there's a big stone arch bridge. Okay, they're going to put a bridge over 101 to connect that, and a bridge over Swansea Factory Road, which then goes down into Swansea and heads down towards Winchton. Okay, so it'll connect the whole southern part of the county with the northern part of the county. So they're working on that, and phase 1 of that is to happen this year, which is clearing some trail from Eastern Ave to 101. Swansea has a TAP grant. That's what Gary was talking about, to fix a bunch of trail in Swansea. We've also been using recreational trails program grants. I don't know if you have that in Vermont or not. To do some like ditching and tree clearing and that kind of thing. The Monadnock Conservancy fixed 2.3 miles back in 21 down here in Lower Fitzwilliam. Troy's going to fix about a mile this spring. Let me see, we're starting to plan this whole section of trail down through here. And Winchester's been kind of killing it. They've been fixing bridges and putting in parking lots and fixing pieces of trail. So there's stuff kind of happening around the region. Okay, before I go, the most important part. So up here in Westmoreland and Surrey, they've also got an RTP grant that'll be happening this year, and so does Walpole. So Walpole, if you get get on the trails in Walpole, you're gonna start to see stuff happening in Walpole, okay? Now, like Gary said, all this takes years, so all these projects, oh, if you back up,
I'm sorry.
all these projects are kind of like the start, right? This is this group getting started, this group getting started, but it'll probably take 3-4 years before it's done. Okay, next. Okay, so this is the connector. So this is the Cheshire Trail. You can't see the legend here, but coming from Walpole going north. This is actually North Walpole. And then here's, I might have got this wrong, but the Riverfront, maybe it doesn't go this far, but you know, the Riverfront Trail here in Bellows Falls. And then here's our, you know, the big connector, which is the Bellows Bridge. And that's mentioned is on the DOT 10-year plan. And we need to make sure it's bike ped friendly, right? That there's bike lanes on it and there's sidewalks on it. I did a brief exchange with Shelley Winter. She works for the DOT, telling her, hey, we're interested in this. I'm gonna be coming back, you know, that kind of thing. So we'll start getting involved there. And because we have the planning commission person on our board, he'll be helping. So we can start putting some effort into this to making sure it's a link that we're all happy with. Okay, then how do we get from there to there, right? And so this section here, this orange part, is probably gonna be along 12 because the tracks are on the other side of the road and it's still active. That's where they do maintenance and stuff in there, right? So we can't get on the actual rail bed. But there's a pretty wide shoulder there. I walked this a couple years ago. So there's two ideas right now. One is just put a bike lane in, you know, along the shoulder. And the second one is put what I call road with trail, and that's actually a concrete barrier or something like that that separates the road from the trail so people feel safe and that kind of thing. Of course, this is probably more money than that, but those are two possibilities. That gets you down to where the rail bed comes out on the 12, which is right near Avishon's there and kind of in that area. So then what, right? So there's two options there too. You can continue down 12 and do a similar thing, and then you need a right-of-way connector like right around here around the Jiffy Mart. It's a short distance, or finish the rail bed itself. The rail bed itself to finish is more complicated. This is pretty wooded, needs a lot of work, needs a lot of clearing. The rail bed is there, but it would need a lot of work to get it to a point that the 6-year-old could ride the bike on it. And the Cold River Bridge is missing. So the abutments are there, but the bridge is gone. So somebody took the bridge at some time in the past. So you have to replace the bridge, right? So this is still being discussed on what to do. And Walpole's focus right now is to get everything kind of south of this, you know, fixed up. So we have time because, like Gary said, this is going to be a few years. But we'll start, you know, we're kind of working on it. But that's the idea of the connector, right? Okay, so next. Okay, so maintenance, green circles mean it's being maintained for year-round use. Yellow circle means it's being maintained for snowmobile use. And red circle means we don't know. We're trying to find out, right? So you can see we got quite a bit of green circles going. And it's usually a combination of a trail group, like Walpole has a trail group through their Conservation Commission that's doing work, and the Hooper Hill Hoppers, which is the snowmobile club. And then the snowmobile club also in Westmoreland said, they now say, yeah, they'll start working on the trail year round. And there's a guy to kind of coordinate things through the summer months. And similar through, you know, all the other different sections. So as you can see, you kind of need sections of, you know, groups managing sections of the trail. The Cheshire Trail south of Swansea is pretty much the snowmoles right now taking care of it. So it's mostly, you know, for winter use. And what that means is if you come into a section of trail that has a lot of vegetation, typically snowmobile clubs go out around late October, early November to start mowing and clearing and get ready for snowmobile season. So in July or August, you could be trying to walk through 6 feet of weeds, potentially. So, and then they also manage this section of trail from the state line up to Jaffrey. And we're, like I said, we just started working on this, basically trying to understand who's doing what, if anything. Okay, next. Okay, so Gary had a big list of benefits. I boiled it down to 3. One is economic activity and value. In fact, I'm doing another presentation for the state of New Hampshire, and I just learned in 2021, the bikers, hikers, and equestrian people contributed 48 million to New Hampshire's economy last year. So it's not chump change, right? It's something, right? So, hey, if we can get all these connections made, we can maybe be getting people to do bike rides from Boston up to here, right? Which could be helpful. It just helps with, using bikes and pedestrian for transportation. I found a study, I think it was greenways.com, that said typically a person will bike 5 miles as a form of transportation, commute every day. With e-bikes, it's probably a little longer now, 7, maybe 10, kind of thing. And then also just improves healthy because people are more active, active people are more healthy. So, okay, next. So this was supposed to be kind of a fun puzzle, but anyway, we're putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. We have our plans, we have our funding sources, we have pretty much every municipality in our region working with us. We have a couple right-of-way and encroachment issues, but really just a couple because all the trail I'm showing here is owned by the state of New Hampshire, right? So that's the person that we deal with when it comes to the state. We've been able to come up with matching funds so far. We work with the state, the Department of Transportation, the Bureau of Trails, Federal Highway. We've got all them in the loop. We know about what costs to do work. We have teams, as I showed, in different regions, and we have maintenance plans as well. And that's it.
Okay, that wraps up our presentations, and now we're moving into phase 2, where Bonnie will be moderating questions and discussion.
Marsha will be writing down. I'm falling away. Is that?
I have a question.
Oh.
It's for Gary, so Gary, you can't run away. So what's the plan on the TAP grant? Schedule.
Say that again, sorry?
The schedule on the TAP grant.
So I think we're meeting next week with Windham Regional Commission, selecting a consultant. Actually, Colin would be better to answer that.
Yeah, so, as of right now, there's 2 separate TAP grants for Rockingham. The one that's
Do you want to
ongoing-
introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
My name's Colin Bratton. I do transportation planning for the Windham Regional Commission. And I work with Rockingham and Gary in particular on a whole bunch of different things about Bike Test Summit in Rockingham. And so there's 2 TAP grants. There's one to scope improvements for the intersection of Atkinson Street and School Street, where the meeting Waters building was, and that is ongoing, and we're sort of in the process of selecting a consultant. The other one, which Gary discussed tonight for the Bellows Riverfront Trail, and I had worked with Gary to apply in December for that grant from VTRANS, and that will be announced whether or not it's funded probably sometime in February. So we will know in February what the next steps are for that grant.
Okay, great, thank you.
Other questions?
Carol.
I'm not sure if it's a question or just my pie in the sky was, I would love to see the trails from like Monadnock continue up the Connecticut Valley to connect to the eastern ends of the Cross Vermont and the Lamoille trails.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a great pie in the sky.
That's a lot of pie.
That's a question for Mike, really, or, well, I don't know if it's a question, but.
Well, I don't
Is
know
there
what
talk
the trail
about-
system is in Vermont going up to there. I can tell you there's a cross New Hampshire trail from Maine through New Hampshire to connect with the Lamoille. And there's a person working on that to make that connection. So I think the Lamoille's like 92 miles. Across New Hampshire's another, I think 60 or something, and then they're connecting with a trail in Maine. So people will be able to go pretty far along the northern part of Maine. But I'm not familiar with how to get from here up to there on this side of the river.
And I'm not specifically saying on either side, but just to be able to, then you'd you could really get like a whole regional connection
Yeah, that
going.
would be great, yeah.
You know, because from the Lamoille one, it's not that hard even to get up toward Montreal, and, you know, they've got a lot of
That's going to
trails
Burlington.
up in Quebec,
I think
and
that's going to Burlington, right?
it goes,
Not quite,
Goes to Swanton, I think.
oh, okay.
The Missisquoi goes, oh no, that's St. Albans, it starts in St. Albans, never mind.
Yep,
It's
okay.
the east side of the state, Lemoyle is east.
All right, yeah. More questions?
I would comment that one aspect I haven't heard mentioned is communicating with the community. I bring it up because so many times someone will say, what were you doing? Oh, I was riding at Oak Ridge Trails. Where's that? Because people aren't aware of it, and a lot of times in their own backyard, not aware of what's available. Maybe this one's I'm not aware of, but how to get to the public that, hey, this is here, come use it. It seems to be a missing link.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
it'd be great to have something maybe even on the town website that had lists all of them. And we keep talking about doing it on our website, we haven't done it. But both, yeah. Great, thanks Al. Jean?
Hi, I'm Jean, and in my younger days, I used to be a sort of moderately intense, medium, long-distance biker. And I just hope that when you're applying for all these grants, that you accentuate the economic value. I hung out with some bikers who spend thousands of dollars on exotic bike trips. There's a lot of money, and people, you know, so if we had a connecting trail system, people would come to Bellows Falls and they'd eat, they'd want to stay at an inn, and they'd spend a lot of money.
I'd say it's her comment. I've been doing some volunteer work at the Riverfront Park. People have been coming because of COVID, and so many more families did things they never did before together. They got into kayaking, they got into hiking, they got into fishing, and I saw such an intense change after COVID. So I think, I definitely agree with her. This is a huge economic benefit, and I think the number was 48 million was mentioned in New Hampshire that it generated. I see even more. I just think it would just be a marvelous, marvelous thing for us economically, and we should all support it.
Absolutely. Okay.
I think one thing that nobody's talked about is the environmental impact of having more people walk and bike and doing commerce between the different villages too within the town of Rockingham. And I mean, my personal desire is to have 121 safe to ride a bike on.
Yes, too.
Yes, we do.
Yours?
Mike.
Oh, I was behind you.
Oh, Jeff.
Jeff, sorry.
I'm Jeff Nugent. I work with Cowan at the Windham Regional Commission, you know, like the mapping and data collection. So a few comments, a couple of things that we might be able to help with is we have a pretty robust bike and ped count program. So we have tube counters we can put across the road that can do, just like traffic counters can count bikes. So possibly, you know, put bike counters out there, how many people are biking on Route 121 now, if improvements were made, how many people are biking after those improvements are made. Trail counters, where there trail counts, crosswalk counters, things like that. So something that we might be able to help with. We've done a number of counts for different organizations who are doing grants. So happy to help out with that. Gentlemen, I mentioned about just knowing that the trails are available. I hear that all the time. I live down in Brattleboro, and there's this great trail, but you kind of got to go past the posted sign, which is okay, just ignore that. And there's this guy visually sketching who lives on a trail. You walk past his house, he's super nice. And so there's a lot of trails that really could use some love in terms of signage and wayfinding and really making people feel welcome. And so many of you may know where these trails are informally, but if you're a little nervous about maybe, you know, going on some private property, or you're not sure if this is the right place or not, or the brambles are, you know, littered with ticks, and you're a little wigged out about that, making these trails welcoming just through better signage and kiosks and things like that are really important, and it's something that's actually relatively inexpensive to do. You know, Gary was talking about these grants, lots of money to build these trails, that's great, but in some places where the trails were already built, it's relatively easy to do some good signage and good markings and things like that can be helpful. What else? And again, something we can help with some mapping. We've done a lot of trail maps for different organizations around here. There's a website called Trail Finder that the state of Vermont is using as their sort of portal into official trails. And so you can put some of your trails on there. That helps. I think Conor's group has their mountain bike trails on Trail Forks. That's something that the mountain bikers on there, because that's really good to know about. I think that's all I have.
Thank you. That's great. That's really helpful.
Oh, sorry, one more. You're talking a lot about trails, but haven't heard anybody talk about sidewalks.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that's part of your view or not, because as you move through town, as you get from the rec center over to the Bellows Bridge or the Riverfront Park, looking at those sidewalks.
Yeah, that is a big part of the Walk Bike Committee. We're already working on some sidewalk issues in town, and then out from there. So, yeah, I mean, that, and I think that's might be, we have some other topics. After all the questions, we have some topics to generate discussion, so. Thanks.
Amy. Just seconding, we have to go because it's getting late, it's a school night. But I wanted to add, we asked some of our friends, youth in the community about this, and I kind of said, do you have any ideas about how the town can make it be better for bikers or walkers? The general consensus, pretty much 99% of the kids are saying that the sidewalks are too broken, which it sounds like there's already a committee. And so I'm thinking of ideas, and like we would definitely be willing to like do some interviews with the kids and get some testimonials about that. And then also there's the idea that biking on the road is scary. And so, you know, so many of the kids are using bikes, thanks to Bonnie, who provides free and low-cost bikes, which is incredible. Bike, but also, you know, young adults and adults with intellectual disabilities who can't drive. Like, biking is really, really important for them to be able to access our community and be like positive members of the community. And it scares me a lot for them, even just like get to the health center. I also think a lot about this idea of like connecting Saxon's River, and I know tons of folks, friends of mine in recovery who are trying to access recovery services via the bus, and they live in Saxon's River, and so then no bus goes out there, so they're like hitching rides or walking on 121, and so to have a safe way would be incredible. So anyway, just adding that, and we'd love to add testimonials.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great.
And we have to go.
Thanks,
Sorry.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Betsy.
So Betsy Thurston with the Bellows Downtown Development Alliance, I'm so glad I get to talk to you after. But I wanted to address something you said too, that we are definitely working on. This is our little committee for Walkable Rockingham, along with Gary. And I'm not sure if you know, but we're in a lot of other groups, Select Board and promotions and development. Obviously, Gary's very busy, so we haven't gotten very far with this, but our idea is a wayfinding program. So to connect, there'll be kiosks and signage and QR codes, but they will connect the points of interest with different sites, historic sites, as well as trails. So that's our long-term goal of that. And it will be walkable Rockingham.
It's a combination of both signage and digital resources that are designed to interface.
And BDCC donated a consultant to help drive it, because all of the people in Walkable Rockingham are doing other things, so to keep the continuity, we have someone working on it that's meeting with the walk bike, or attending the walk bike committee's January 20th meeting to get started with that, their group. So, get it started.
I have another question. I mean, VTRANS and, you know, the state is so car-centric. You know, if groups like us can really lobby them to give us more money, you know, would that be helpful, or?
I think, well, I'm not answer, but part of it is not so much getting, money from VTRANS, but also getting ahead. Part of our purpose is to stay ahead of the projects, to make sure, on top of and ahead of the projects, to make sure they include bike ped infrastructure in repairs or new projects.
So another point of information, I've started following VPOP 802, which is a movement to make sure that buildings and roads and infrastructure is built for people rather than for cars.
Yeah.
And I mean, they recently fought in Burlington for an ordinance that prevents the minimum parking space associated with new buildings. So if you think of a European town with narrow corridors, which are walk and bike friendly, but not car friendly, that's one of the images that they use.
Thank you.
I just have one quick comment, another one I just thought of. While I was at the park, every single day, at least 2 or 3 people are birders from the Audubon Society and all over, like New England. They come here, they stay a couple of days, they're asking me, where can I stay? What's a good restaurant in town? And they're here for a few days. And it's really amazing on the economic part of this, really amazing. So I'm thinking of all of this potential for us, and that was just one.
Yeah. Great. Any more questions? Mike?
Yeah, comment. So, I spend time on the trails in my region doing maintenance, and because we have maintenance stuff on, people stop and talk. And I've been noticing a lot of people on e-bikes. In fact, I would ask people, they stop and I'd say, oh, so how do you like your e-bike? Oh, I love it. How many miles have you gone? And I think it was in April, this one woman said she's done 1,000 miles. I go, 1,000 miles this year already? She says, yes. I go, how many miles did you ride before this? She goes, I never rode a bike. So the e-bikes are coming. New Hampshire's laws right now are class 1 and 2 on trails. So my question is, what's Vermont's laws around e-bikes and trails?
Yeah, what does class 1 and 2 on trails mean?
It's kind of the speed that they can go. Kind
Right,
of like
so-
full assist.
Like how they're powered.
So class 1 is an e-bike that is pedal assist only, no throttle. They can go up to 20 miles an hour. And class 2 is a pedal assist and throttle that can go 20. And class 3 can go up to 28, which is not allowed on trails in New Hampshire, right? So, and then the other issue we're dealing with is there's lots of other products coming out that claim to be bikes, but they'll go 40, 50, they have a pedal, so they're calling them bikes. So we're already talking to our legislation saying we got to get some more classification down here because they're really motorcycles with pedals. But anyway, so all I'm saying is e-bikes I think are going to be a big thing, and so you might want to just start finding out what's the state allow or not to allow. I think Mass does not allow them at all because there's a motor on it, because their trails are non-motorized, period. So.
Could we ask Jonathan Weber that question?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's there.
Yeah. Can folks hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so the word trails can be a bit of a hang up there, right? So if you're talking about a natural surface, like a single track trail, or, like a recreation, like a rec path or a shared use path, Vermont law doesn't say anything about e-bikes on natural surface trails. That's really something that landowners and trail managers are dictating right now. And there are no restrictions on e-bikes on, paved trail, as long as the bike falls within one of the 3 or technically 4 classes of e-bikes in state law. And that basically means that the bike can't go faster than 28 or have more than 1,000 watts of power. Anything above that is not classified as an e-bike, and it's basically a motor vehicle and not allowed on a trail.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan. I just want to interject that just in talking about the growth of e-bikes and bikes in general, we have seen in the past few years at the bike shop a huge increase in people looking for bikes. So that means just more people, more bikers on the road, and so just another reason to get this infrastructure going. So, okay.
I have one more question. Are there any statistics on accidents with bikes, how that has changed as more people are using them in the state or in the area?
You can access that through VTRANS. They actually have a list of all reported accidents, and when I looked, there had been something like 1 bicycle accident in the last 15 years in Bellows Falls. Wow. So, we actually put it in there.
Yeah, Bob Schofield asked a question. Here it says, let's see, where can I get more information on the project and current trail system?
Which project?
I don't know which project.
Projected and current? I'm guessing projected and current.
Projected and current, so, yeah.
Oh, projected, oh, I see, projected and current.
For trail system?
Well, someone mentioned the trail finder on the state offers, right? Isn't that one thing?
Yeah.
I think Jeff mentioned, Rails to Trails, did they start trailfinder.com?
Traillink, yeah. But I don't believe a lot of your trails in town are in that. So if somebody wants to go type in Google, trails Bellows Falls, maybe they're gonna get somebody who's posted a blog post about their walking, but there's no sort of one central official source for that information. So that could be something the town wants to think about, maybe doing a brochure, getting the trails into Trail Finder, things like that. If you do that though, it's important to go to Vermont Academy and say, hey, the public has used your trails informally. What do you think about opening up to the wider audience? And so there can be issues that way too. So something to think about how open to the public you do want these trails. So
yeah.
So I would just.
I'm sorry. Barbara.
Well, some of the information was just here. So if that person can get a copy of what was projected here about the Bellows Falls Trail, that might be helpful. The list of them.
So that's what I wanted to say. We have maps of the first round of trails that Peter Bergstrom showed that Jeff made for us for grants. That's useful, and we do have a grant that's in process to turn those into brochures and maps by December. So those pieces are happening, but we haven't thought about including VA and getting permission from different places. That's a good idea. We should probably work with you on getting those brochures developed and make sure we do that right and can interface them with the internet programs.
I got a copy of Peter's presentation. Is that available to everybody somewhere?
It doesn't have a lot of details in it. I had a more detailed version, but it was too long.
Well, this is being recorded, so I think it's going to be shown on Cat TV.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Personally, I think the town website would be the ideal place to have a section on recreation.
Don't get me started.
I think it might be ideal, but that's not where I would go for information. The town website is, I mean, if I were thinking, where am I gonna go? I don't think that's where, I think there must be other ways, whether it's a Facebook page or something else, because the town website is not
Well, it could be on the town website, as long as there was you were able to leverage the Google search engine to point you to that.
So we'll have that on the town website for the end of the week, under the community projects tab. Just the map of the trails that Peter said was the downtown Bellows Falls ones. So
Yeah.
Oak Hill Trails, Bald Hill Trails, the Riverfront Trail, and Miners Pond are on it.
Great.
And the pump track area, the rec area.
Jeff?
Just another comment, I've worked with some trails groups that like, their vision stops at the town line. But somebody who's gonna come to Bellows Falls and, go buy a cup of coffee or a beer before or after their hike, may do their walk in the Bellows Falls High School Forest, which is in Westminster, Oregon. Wonderful views of town from Table Rock. And so, while they're not in your town, you may want to look at, working with, say, groups in Walpole to better signage and improvements to that trail too, because that can be a great resource to the town here, so.
Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely. Al?
There was a mention earlier that she made a comment of comments that she had gotten from kids, and they mentioned it is scary to ride a bike on the road. Well, it is. I ride a lot, 6,000 to 9,000 miles a year or so, and it is scary. And most of what makes it scary is ignorance on the part of car drivers and bike riders, that there's this massive gap of understanding that we're all there for the same thing and that we all have the same rules, that the car drivers don't understand that the bicycles have a right to be there, the bicycle riders don't have an understanding that they have to follow the same rules as the cars. It's like there's an education gap going on there. There's a little bit in your driver's license manual when you're 16 years old and you read it about how we all fit together. But that's all I know of as far as educating the public of how this all works. And I would think that if there was a massive statewide education program that would, work for both pedestrian type users and car drivers, we could kind of narrow the divide a little bit. But I know so, and I can't fault one group or the other because we're both doing it. A lot of the bike people don't understand that there's rules to be followed and this is how you should go about it. And a lot of the car people don't understand that, the roads are for people. So I just throwing it out there. I don't have a solution. I'm just pointing to problems. But it seems to be an education problem, whether it's part of the driver education thing or if there should be some form of bike education. I don't know, but there's definitely a
That's why it
lack
starts
there.
with the kids.
Yeah.
That's why they,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good point. Incidentally, I just want to put this out there, that we are finally resuming our bike riding, safe riding and repair classes with the middle school this spring, but I don't have a teacher yet. So if anyone, I'm Mike, thanks for coming.
Take care, yeah, bye-bye, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
So that's all, I'm not going to elaborate, but just contact me if you or anyone you know is interested in working with middle school kids, riding and or repairing bikes. So.
We need to wrap up soon.
Oh, we
Yeah, it's almost 7:30.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Burlington, Vermont is a major biking town, and nowadays, as opposed to 10 years ago, there are signs all over, share the road, and there's a picture of a bicycle, and you've got to have the signage. I'm trying to speak to your point, and there's marked bike lanes, and it's really in your face about where the bikes should be and where the cars should be, and there's all kinds of signage. Otherwise, accidents happen.
Yeah, we're working on that. We'll be working on that. One sign that we talked about having, say, on 121, at least until we can get something off the road, is bikers may use travel lane, like so up ahead. So that would be something that we
But yes.
And while we're being realistic about 121, I might point out that several years ago, I attended a meeting sort of like this to discuss putting a sidewalk out through North Westminster, which, by the way, would have been the very first sidewalk in the entire town of Westminster. The ultimate conclusion that the state reached, there was a small grant to study building such a thing, and the ultimate conclusion was that the road and the right-of-way out through that village wouldn't really accommodate a sidewalk. So I wouldn't be too optimistic about having a sidewalk along there. In the meantime, yes, we need to work more on sharing the right-of-way that there is. Along a stretch of road that is used by bicycles, pedestrians, motor vehicles, trucks, etc. That's rather narrow.
Yeah, I just want to say there's a sign-up sheet on here. If you haven't, it's on the table. Contact or email. We can keep you in the loop with progress or maps or whatever. And I don't know if there's a way to capture it from the Zoom participants.
Oh.
Yeah, if they could put emails in the chat and you could screenshot them or something.
Yeah, anyone who wants to share and chat, go for it.
Just want to make sure we covered all the topics. Really goes that way. I think we covered everything. We covered the questions. Yeah. Collaboration among groups is happening. I know we have, and so I know we have to, safety, we did talk about safety, support for VTRANS grant. I think, so we're out of time, right?
There's no time on that.
Oh, really? Fire away. Right, so that's, so basically, anything that anyone wants to say?
I want to say that our committee meets pretty regularly every couple of weeks, and the agenda and minutes are on the town website, and our meetings are held at the town hall or on Zoom, so anybody can attend. We welcome you to come, because it's really exciting to hear all the ideas that you've been presenting, and I would say 90% of them are things that we have talked about in our committee. We've only been meeting for 9 months, 8-9 months, so you don't see a whole lot of change yet, but this meeting is our coming out.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, very good.
And before we adjourn, I want to thank Anne for all her tremendous support, Director of Programming here at the library, and she has done a fabulous job of supporting us and promoting the program. So
thank you for the audience.
And also thanks to Alex Stradley and Fact TV for recording and broadcasting. So now we can have informal conversation or go home.
I'm in the south end, and our trails cross a lot of private property. I can get. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that connect because there's some way of connecting, including being network, connect with the whole so, you know, it's sort of a bike trail that I have. I don't think it's gonna happen in my It'd be nice to go to the it's so much here. And I wonder whether there was any, I don't think there is now. You said you'd like. But some of that is
Recording stopped.